How can technology help us reduce our stress, and how does technology also add to stress?
We're doing some work now where we're creating, we have this new mindfulness app. Mindfulness, as I study it again, which at some point we should really clarify for people, but not right this second. And basically, that when you're well, I'm going to do it. When you're mindful, what you're doing is, since you're in the present, you're actively noticing new things. That gives you an attention to variability by seeing change. And if you have an app where, let's say you think you're always depressed. Well, no one is always anything. And if you're depressed, you're not always depressed at the same level. And so if you had your phone call you, text you, or some gadget call you periodically and just check in. How are you feeling right now? Two things would happen. You'd come to see, gee, there are times you're not stressed. The second, when those times occur, it would lead to the question, well, why? And that would lead you to a search for a solution. That search itself would probably be mindful and would be good for your health. And you might actually come up with a solution. There are apps about healthy eating. If one is on their computers and they're being creative, mindful, that's going to be good for their health. There's a social network that, I have this Words with Friends that, people who I didn't know I was such friends with keep, playing the game with me. And so there's a sense of a relationship that's easy to facilitate when you might be infirm. It's never the fault of the gadget, of the technology, that we feel stressed. It's a thought that we impose on ourselves in using these gadgets. I have to be more proficient. Oh my God, the machine is not working at this moment. My email is down. The world is going to fall apart because of it. But the machine is just not working for a brief time. As far as multitasking, no matter what it is you come up with, it is not in the activity that we experience stress. Multitasking can be fabulous. You're multitasking all the time. That right now you're, okay, so I just moved around and I'm looking at you and I'm talking and I'm thinking of different things and I'm aware, that I don't want to move the microphone, and all of this is happening, but I call it by one name. I'm just being part of this podcast. So that if you see yourself, well, let me explain this differently. Let's say you're a student and you're doing your social studies homework and you're doing your history homework, and you keep going back and forth and you can get yourself crazy thinking of yourself as multitasking. If you raise it a level of analysis and you see yourself as doing your homework, then you're not multitasking. Now, we have some research where we have people mindfully multitasking, and one task is actually enhancing the performance on the other task. So if you have rigid boundaries around these tasks, but they have nothing in common, and that you have to be expert at both of them and get them done immediately, yes, doing them both at the same time is going to be stressful. If you have a sense that they're integrated in some way, and you relieve the time pressure, you don't have to suffer with it.
I agree with you, depending on circumstances.
Sure.
If we text and drive, it would not be good.
No.
It would be dangerous. So it depends on the circumstance.
Sure. No, I mean, and if you were shooting yourself while you were texting, there's no argument that we can use, but it's not the texting. It's not the computers, the gadgets that are causing the problem. I mean, you can have your opportunities to text, and you can have your opportunities to drive. You shouldn't be driving and eating, I would assume you would say, right? We don't want to ban cars or.
But it's so common as a problem in our society with
Well, the
texting
reason
and
it's
driving.
common, it's because people don't realize that they don't have control. So that when phones first came out, cell phones, my guess, and I think there's data from the Netherlands, but I'm not sure, that what happened is there was a reduction in accidents because you knew that your attention was being pulled. All right. Now we don't realize that. We think we're so expert on it that we mindlessly do it and accidents occur. There's a place in Mexico where I frequent where you come in the street where there's no stop sign, there's no traffic light, and there are no accidents because everybody is aware that they have to be there, right? So it's not the texting even, it's the thinking that I've mastered this so I can text and I can drive and I can do 12 other things at the same time. And so people need to be shown that they can't.
And what about from a nutrition perspective? Do we have technology that's being helpful to promote healthy diets?
You know, at Healthy Kitchens, Healthy Lives this year, we're having a presentation by Mark Berman, who's a physician internist, worked at the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation looking at childhood obesity, and now he's in this tech space looking at all these Fitbit-like designs. It's a huge industry, and you know, technology startups are everywhere. Will there be a device in the next 5 years that everyone must have to track how many calories they're taking in, how many calories they're burning? I don't know if this will appeal to everybody. I'm one of these people who finds it very difficult to log in everything on all of these internet-based programs. It doesn't help me, it sort of stresses me. On the other hand, if I do it for a few days, I'll realize how little I'm moving and how much I'm eating. I think we're in the early days. And I have a lot of faith in the 20, 30, and 40-year-old engineers working with psychologists to figure out a way that non-digital natives like me might have a device to help us, and that the younger generation, my kids included, who are always wired, will just see it as part of life in the next century. I think we're really in the early days, and I think there's such a big market there that, you know, the competitive marketplace will refine those tools and they will be helpful. Right now, I think it's a little rocky and the jury's out, but I think it's part of our collective future in the area of stress and food in particular.